Night fell over the forest like a closing fist. The sounds of frogs, insects, and wind merged into a chorus that could drive a frightened soul to madness. Amira stumbled through the thick undergrowth, her bare feet cut by stones, her palms bleeding from thorns. She had not stopped running since the flames swallowed Okira. Every rustle made her heart jolt, every shadow looked like a soldier. When her strength finally gave out, she fell to her knees beside the old Eru River, the same river that marked the invisible border between the kingdom and the wild. "Grandma," she whispered into the dark, "I did what you said. I ran. But now there was nowhere else to go." She cupped her hands into the water to drink. The surface rippled, and for a second she thought she saw a face, not her own, but a woman's face, calm and sad, with eyes like the moon. Then the wind shifted, and the vision vanished. The stranger. When Amira woke the next morning, she wasn't alone. A tall man knelt beside the riverbank, washing blood from a wound on his arm. He wore dark clothes and a traveling cloak that looked too fine for a commoner. His gaze met hers, sharp, intelligent, a little amused. "You're lucky I found you," he said. "Another hour and the wild dogs would have." Amira scrambled back. "Who are you?" "A friend. Or an enemy, depending on what you tell me." He smiled faintly. "My name is Captain Kunnel. Former guard of Erumu Palace." Her breath caught. "The palace?" "Yes." "And you, what's your name, girl?" "Amira." He frowned as if tasting the name. "Amira," he repeated softly. "That name hasn't been heard in the palace since." "No matter. You shouldn't be here. The Queen Mother has eyes everywhere. She's the one who sent soldiers to my village," Amira said bitterly. "They killed my grandmother." Kunnel's jaw tightened. He looked at her more carefully. "Why would the Queen Mother send soldiers after a village girl?" Amira shook her head. "I don't know. I've never even met her." "No," he murmured. "Then the gods are playing their old game again." Kunnel offered her food and a cloak from his satchel. As she ate, he studied her face in silence. Something about her unsettled him, the curve of her cheekbones, the light in her eyes. He had seen those eyes before. Long ago. On the night the king died. He remembered the infant who had vanished from the palace nursery, the one the Queen Mother had declared dead. He said nothing, only rose and held out his hand. "If you want to live, you'll come with me. I'm headed toward Erumu. There's someone there who can hide you." "Back to the palace?" she asked in disbelief. "You just said the Queen Mother is hunting me." "The palace is large," he said. "And not everyone there serves her." Something in his tone, steady, protective, made her trust him. She took his hand. And so began her journey back toward the place she had been born, though neither of them spoke of destiny, or blood, or crowns. Whispers of rebellion. As they traveled, Kunnel told her stories of the kingdom under the Queen Mother's rule. After the king's death, Prince Damolaire had been crowned as regent, but the true power lay in the Queen Mother's hands. Taxes bled the people dry, dissenters vanished overnight, and the royal guard had become a weapon of fear. Even the priestess Mornike disappeared, he said one night by the fire. Some say she fled into exile. Others say she waits for the return of the lost heir. Amira stared at the flames. Lost heir? A child the king was said to have before he died. It's only a story, he added quickly. But Amira wasn't listening. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Every dream she'd had at the palace halls, the crying woman, the blood moon, came flooding back. If it's just a story, she said quietly, why does the Queen Mother fear it? Kunnel glanced at her, then away. Because stories have teeth. In Erumu, the Queen Mother sat in her private garden, watching the fountain's water shimmer beneath the afternoon sun. Damolaire, now king, entered silently. His face was lined from sleepless nights. The soldiers lost her, he said flatly. Okira is gone, but the girl escaped. Then she's alive, the Queen Mother replied. Good. Let her come home. It will be easier to end the prophecy when it stands before the throne. She turned to him, her smile as cold as the marble walls. You wanted the crown, Damolaire. You have it. But remember, I am the one who keeps it on your head. Damolaire said nothing. Inside, guilt gnawed at him, but fear kept him silent. Every night he dreamed of Adesewa's eyes, filled with betrayal, sorrow, and something worse, forgiveness. The encounter at the shrine. Kunal and Amira reached the outskirts of Erumu by dusk. They hid in the ruins of an old shrine. Rain began to fall, soft, rhythmic, cleansing. Amira walked among the broken statues, tracing strange carvings on the stones. One symbol glowed faintly under her touch, the crest of the royal house. What is this place? She asked. The old shrine of the moon goddess, Kunal said. It's been abandoned for years. But before he could say more, a soft voice spoke behind them. Not abandoned. Only waiting. They turned. Standing in the doorway was Alorisha Mornike, older now but still radiant, her white robe soaked from the rain. Kunal bowed deeply. Priestess, we thought you were dead. Not dead. Watching. Her gaze fell on Amira. You've grown, stormborn child. Amira's throat went dry. You know me? I knew you before you had a name, Mornike said. The blood of kings runs in you. And now the time has come for it to awaken. Lightning flashed through the shrine, illuminating the royal crest on the wall. Amira stumbled back, her mind spinning. No. I'm just Amira from Okira. You are Amira Aladapo, daughter of the late king, Mornike said softly. The true heir of Erumu. The words echoed through the ruined temple, impossible and yet undeniable. Kunal dropped to one knee. The truth he had half suspected now stood blazing before him. Amira felt her world tilt. The faces of Mama Kemi and Adesewa flickered through her mind, their silence suddenly clear. If I am the heir, she whispered, then why does the Queen Mother want me dead? Because, Mornike said, stepping closer, the gods decreed that a queen will rise who will end her bloodline. You are that queen. The rain outside grew louder, drumming against stone like 1,000 beating hearts. Amira sank to her knees, her voice breaking. Then my whole life was a lie. The priestess laid a hand on her shoulder. No, child. It was protection. But now the hiding is over. Amira lifted her head, tears mixing with rain. Then I will return, not as prey, but as the storm they tried to drown. The rain had washed away every footprint they left behind. By the time Amira, Kunal, and the priestess Mornike reached the outskirts of Erumu, the clouds had broken open to reveal a gray, heavy dawn. The capital city shimmered in the distance, silver domes and marble towers reflecting the first light like knives. Erumu was not as Amira remembered from the stories Mama Kemi used to tell her. The streets were quieter now. Traders whispered instead of shouted. Soldiers patrolled the corners, their eyes sharp, their swords sharper. The Queen Mother has turned the city into her cage, Kunal muttered as they entered through the northern gate. Mornike's voice was calm but heavy. Even cages rust with time. But we must move like shadows. They found refuge in a small abandoned tailor's workshop near the palace wall. From the dusty windows, Amira could see the royal compound rising in the distance, vast, white, and intimidating. Her pulse quickened. She felt something deep within her stir, recognition and fear. That's where I was born, she whispered. That's where you'll return, Mornike replied. But not yet. First, we need the truth, proof of who you are. Kunal nodded. The palace records. If we can get to the royal archives, we'll find the birth scrolls. But they're heavily guarded. Mornike turned to him. You still have friends inside, don't you? Kunal hesitated. One. But trusting her could cost us everything. Then everything it shall cost, Amira said firmly. Because I'm done running. For the first time, Kunal saw in her eyes not the frightened girl from the forest, but a leader raw and untrained, but undeniably royal. The palace under watch. Inside the palace, the Queen Mother sat on the throne reserved for morning audiences. She wore a robe of gold and crimson, her crown thin but heavy with diamonds that caught every flicker of torchlight. She looked ageless, not because time was kind, but because power had preserved her. A guard knelt before her. "Your Majesty, our scouts found traces of footprints near the old moon shrine." Her fingers tightened on the armrest. "So the priestess still lives. Should we send men after her?" "No," she said softly. "Let her come. The snake that slithers home is easier to cut." Behind her stood King Damolaire, silent as ever, watching his mother rule in his name. The years had made him smaller somehow, not in body, but in spirit. "Mother," he said finally, "what if the child truly lives?" The Queen Mother turned her head slightly, her gaze like ice. "Then she dies again. This time, permanently." Damolaire swallowed his words. Somewhere deep down, a part of him prayed that the girl would never reach the palace, because if she did, the truth would destroy him. That night, Connell slipped through the city alone to contact his informant. He entered the palace through the old servant tunnels, passages he had memorized during his years as captain of the guard. Every step felt like walking through memory. When he reached the laundry hall, he paused. Women were folding linens under dim lanterns, chatting softly. One of them looked up, her face pale and lined with age, but her eyes sharp. "Connell?" "Yes," he whispered. "You still work here?" "Somehow," she said. "Not many of us survived the purges." She led him to a quiet corner. "What do you want?" "The birth scrolls," he said. "The year the king died. There was a child, a girl." The woman's face went still. "You mean her," she said softly. "I remember the night. There was thunder." The Queen Mother ordered the records sealed and the midwives sent away. One of them vanished. They said she took the child. Connell leaned forward. "Do you know where the scroll is?" "Yes, but it's hidden in the lower archives. Guarded by the Queen Mother's personal men. You'll need a royal seal to access it." He handed her a small pouch of gold. "Then help me get it." She shook her head. "Gold won't save me, Connell. But maybe it will buy time. Wait here tomorrow night. I'll leave the door to the lower archives open once. After that, I'm gone." The ghost in the mirror. While Connell risked his life in the palace, Amira couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside the tailor's shop, rattling the windows like a warning. She sat by a cracked mirror, staring at her reflection, the same face she'd seen every day, yet tonight it looked different. The candlelight flickered, and for a heartbeat, another face appeared, softer, regal, with tears in its eyes. "Adesewa," Amira whispered. A whisper filled the room, carried by the wind. "My daughter, forgive me." The candle went out. More Nike rushed in from the next room. "What happened?" "I saw her," Amira said, trembling. "The woman who raised me. She was crying." Mornike's gaze softened. "Spirits of the loyal never rest until justice breathes again." "Justice?" Amira asked. "Then tell me, how did she die?" The priestess hesitated. "The Queen Mother had her executed. She knew too much." Amira's eyes filled with fury and grief. "Then I will finish what she died protecting." The following night, Connell returned, his cloak soaked from the rain. "It's time," he said. They slipped through the old tunnels, guided by the faint blue light of Mornike's charm. Every creak of stone echoed too loudly. When they reached the lower archives, the door stood slightly ajar, just as promised. Inside, the air was cool and thick with dust. Shelves of scrolls and ledgers filled the hall. Connell moved quickly, scanning the records. Year of the Twin Comets, here. He unrolled a sealed scroll and froze. There, written in royal ink, was the entry. Daughter born to His Majesty King Oladapo and Lady Adesewa under the storm of the Red Moon. Declared stillborn by order of the Queen Mother. Amira's hand trembled as she touched the parchment. "Stillborn," she whispered. "That's what they called me. Now we have proof, Kunal said. But before they could move, a deep voice came from the doorway. Proof of what? They turned, and standing in the shadows, sword in hand, was King Damilar himself. The king's dilemma. Kunal reached for his weapon, but Damilar raised a hand. Don't. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be lying in your blood. His eyes fell on Amira, and something inside him cracked. She looked so much like Adesewa that for a second, he forgot to breathe. You survived, he said, voice shaking. You knew, Amira whispered. You knew I existed. I tried to protect you, he said. But my mother, she killed the woman who raised me, Amira snapped. Burned my village. Lied to an entire kingdom. You don't understand, child, Damilar said softly. The throne is a curse. Everyone it touches bleeds. She stepped closer. Then it's time the curse bled too. Their eyes locked, king and heir, uncle and niece, bound by the same guilt and destiny. Then footsteps echoed down the corridor. The Queen Mother's guards were coming. Kunal grabbed Amira's arm. We have to go. Damilar looked at the scroll, then at her. Go. Take it. I'll cover your escape. Why? She demanded. Because your mother loved you more than life itself. And I took that from her. As they fled through the tunnels, the king drew his sword and turned to face his mother's men. The clash of steel rang through the night, the first cry of rebellion inside the palace walls. The palace was burning again, not with fire this time, but with fear. The clang of swords echoed through the corridors of marble and gold. Shouts and the clash of armor rolled like thunder. Amira and Kunal ran through the servant tunnels, their torches trembling as they moved, the precious birth scroll pressed tightly against her chest. He's fighting them, Kunal said breathlessly. The king, he's holding them back. No, Amira said, her voice breaking. He's buying us time. Behind them, faint but unmistakable, came the sound of battle, the metallic ring of steel, the cries of dying men, and one sharp, pained groan that seemed to shake the very stones of the palace. The king's last stand. King Damilar stood in the royal archive, sword drawn, his breath shallow. Blood streaked his temple, and 3 of the Queen Mother's guards already lay at his feet. Enough, came the Queen Mother's cold voice as she stepped into the light, flanked by the rest of her soldiers. Her golden robe swept the floor like a trail of fire. You always had a soft heart, my son, she said. That was your weakness and hers. Damilar's sword trembled slightly. You called her Barren. You destroyed her name. But Adesewa gave this kingdom its future, not you. That child was a threat to order, the Queen Mother hissed. She would have ended everything I built. Then maybe it deserves to end, Damilar said. The Queen Mother's eyes darkened. You're not worthy of the crown you wear. Then take it, he said quietly, lifting his sword. But know this, the rightful queen lives. The Queen Mother's fury broke through her calm. She signaled her guards. Kill him. Steel met steel. Damilar fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. His blade was poetry, swift, desperate, beautiful. But he was outnumbered. A sword pierced his side. He stumbled but swung again, cutting another down. Blood spread across his white tunic like a crimson flower. You can kill me, he gasped, but you'll never stop her. The Queen Mother stepped closer and plunged a dagger beneath his ribs. You always were your father's fool. As Damilar fell to his knees, he looked up at her with a faint, tragic smile. Then may the fool's blood curse your crown. His body fell with a dull thud. For a moment, the Queen Mother stared down at him, her breath uneven. Then she turned to her guards. Seal every gate. Find the girl. Bring me her heart. In the tunnels, Amira staggered as if struck. Her knees gave way. He's gone, she whispered. Mornike's hand caught her shoulder. You felt it? Amira nodded, tears streaming down her face. He died protecting me. Then his death must mean something, Mornike said firmly. You cannot stop now. Kunal tightened his grip on his sword. We'll make his sacrifice count. They emerged through an old gate near the palace's outer wall, where a storm had begun to gather, dark, fierce, and fast. The smell of rain mixed with smoke and blood. Amira turned back once, gazing at the high towers of the palace silhouetted against the lightning. That place took everything from me, she said quietly. My mother. My home. My uncle. It ends tonight. Kunal frowned. We're outnumbered, Amira. She turned to him, her face calm, almost regal. Then let's even the numbers. The people's queen. By morning, the news had spread through the kingdom like wildfire. The king is dead. But alongside the whispers came a rumor of a girl carrying the king's blood, a rightful heir who had survived the queen mother's purge. In the market square, men and women gathered, their anger simmering. A familiar voice rose above the murmurs. Asha, the palace laundress who had helped Kunal. The queen mother lies, she shouted. The true heir lives. She walks among us, and she is coming. The soldiers who tried to silence her were met with stones and sticks. For the first time in years, the people fought back. That evening, Amira and Kunal reached the old amphitheater, once a place of coronations, now abandoned. Hundreds of villagers were waiting, faces weary but fierce. Morniki stepped forward, her white robe flowing like mist. People of Erumu, she cried, the gods have not forgotten you. The blood of your true ruler stands here. Amira stepped out of the shadows. Her hair was tangled, her face streaked with dirt and rain, yet the crowd went silent. There was something in her bearing, something unmistakably royal. I am Amira Adesewa Aladapo, she said, voice steady. Daughter of the late king. The child you were told was dead. The crowd murmured, disbelief turning to awe. They burned my mother's name. They killed my uncle. They call themselves rulers while you starve. But today, her voice rose, strong, commanding, today we take back Erumu. The crowd erupted in thunderous cries. Queen Amira! Queen Amira! The queen mother watched from the palace balcony as torches began to light across the hills. They dare to rise, she murmured. Her advisor bowed nervously. Shall we deploy the guard, Majesty? All of them, she said coldly. If they want a queen, let them drown in her blood. But she didn't notice the crack in her control, the doubt spreading through her soldiers. Many had heard the same rumor, that the real heir lived. That she was the one the gods had chosen. Inside the palace armory, whispers of rebellion flickered like sparks waiting for air. The night before battle. At the amphitheater, the rebels sharpened their weapons under flickering lanterns. The sound of steel and murmured prayers filled the air. Amira sat alone at the edge of the stone platform, staring into the distance. Kunal approached quietly, a cloak draped over his arm. You should rest, he said. I can't, she replied. Every time I close my eyes, I see the people who died for me. Mama Kemi. Adesewa. The king. How many more before this ends? Kunal knelt beside her. As many as it takes for the truth to breathe again. She turned to him, eyes glistening. Will you stand with me till the end? I already have, he said softly. And if we die tomorrow, at least we'll die for something that matters. She reached out and squeezed his hand. The bond between them had grown beyond loyalty, it was something sacred now, forged by pain and purpose. Above them, thunder rumbled again, low and distant, like the gods clearing their throats before judgment. The dawn of reckoning. At sunrise, Amira stood before her people, armor fitted over her gown, the royal crest painted across her chest. The wind carried the smell of rain and rebellion. They call us traitors, she said. But we are the truth they buried. We are the blood they feared. We are Erumu. A roar rose from the crowd. Kunal drew his sword. For the queen! And as the first light of dawn touched the palace walls, the storm that had been gathering for 20 years finally broke, not from the sky, but from the hearts of the people. The march to the palace began.